We always bought groceries on Saturdays. Same aisle, same cheap wine, same routine that passed for togetherness. She'd stand at the end of the cart, scrolling, ring on the finger that had once fit mine like a promise. We joked about seating charts for the wedding, like it was a spreadsheet we could fix. She laughed at a joke I didn't remember making. I smiled because that was the motion I'd learned. Don't forget the protein bars, she said, tossing a pack into the cart. Buying a year's worth of gym snacks? I asked. It's a new phase, she said, easy. Group training, friends. She said friends a lot. I didn't comment. I put the milk in the cart and kept my hands busy. Hook, we came home that day and she kissed me in the hallway. The ring was still on. Quick CTA right after the hook. Short, in tone. Before this goes on, if you like stories that unfold slowly and land quietly, subscribe. I post them the way they happened. No yelling, no theatrics, just facts. Back in the apartment, she went to change for a session. She left the door slightly ajar, her towel on the radiator, her water bottle sweating on the table. We had a routine of small talk. How's your day? Good. Long meeting? Yeah. She used the word long like it was armor. I believed the armor until I didn't. She kissed me again, softer this time, the way you kiss someone whose timetable you already know. I'll be back in an hour, she said. Okay. I watched her go down the stairs. I didn't follow. I made coffee. I wiped the counter. I peered out the peephole to see her walk to the car. She waved without looking. Her ring flashed in sunlight. I went back to the kitchen. The apartment felt like a set. The props were in place. The actors left the stage. I told myself I was being careful, that I wasn't worrying, that I was patient. She drove off with the windows up, music muffled. Two men's voices from the building courtyard drifted up like a radio. I didn't think it meant anything. I should have thought more. She closed the door behind her. I watched the slot of light narrow until it was gone. The first sign was small, nearly nothing, just a towel on the stair landing with a smell that wasn't ours. A neighbor downstairs, the one who waters his plants at dawn, knocked that evening. You left something on the stairs, he said, holding up a thin locker tag. Manager found it by the gym door. I took it without thinking. It read, Locker 23 and a date stamp. Thanks, I said. My voice sounded neutral. Later, in the laundry basket, there was a shirt that wasn't mine. Dark, cheap, still damp. It smelled like someone else's deodorant and something sharper, sweat and cologne mixed. The ring was on her finger when she came home. The damp shirt smelled of places I didn't know. Where's locker 23? I asked casually in the kitchen, passing her the plate. Oh, that's the people's locker at the new class, she said. Ben keeps his things there. Ben? From the group. You met him at Chloe's birthday last month. She didn't meet my eyes. I set the plate down. He uses the locker a lot. Yeah, they rotate. A lot of guys do. Her tone was light, too light. A week later, I found a receipt in her gym bag, a printed copy from the spa attached to the facility. 2 entries, one for a late-night reservation, one for a pair of extra towels. The time on the receipt matched the day she'd told me she worked late. I asked, You ever go to the spa after? Sometimes people hang after class, she said. Stretching, sauna, Ben and a few others. Her hand brushed mine on the couch. She left the ring in place. It felt like a demonstration. There was a voicemail, too, a clipped male voice. You okay? Thought you were leaving. She deleted it when I made tea and pretended not to notice. She did not delete it quickly enough. The thing about small signs, you can ignore most of them. You can fold them into the noise of life. You can call them coincidence. I didn't decide anything in that moment. I just noticed. Noticed how the ring didn't slide when her fingers withdrew from a water bottle. Noticed the way she typed with an absent thumb, the scar on the inside pad where a band might rub. Noticed the laugh she kept for certain messages. One night, she came back smelling of heat and sweat. She kept the ring on. She kissed me, quick. Everything okay? I asked. Yes. Great session. She slid inside like a practiced act. I didn't accuse. I didn't call names. I sat across from her and watched the way her shoulders relaxed when she thought I wasn't watching. That was the real clue, the moment she assumed my eyes were elsewhere. I kept the locker tag in my wallet, or I tucked the receipt into a book. I said nothing out loud. The second proof came from someone who didn't know she had anything to hide. A mutual friend, Jamie, stopped by with a casserole. She chatted, arms full of Tupperware, and said, casual, Ben posted a story from a cabin weekend. Thinks it's hilarious. The guy's got the trainer to join. Wild place? I looked at Jamie like she was misplacing a word. Cabin? I asked. Oh, yeah. They rented something upstate. Ben posted a video. She's in it. Jamie laughed at the punchline. She didn't realize what the punchline meant to me. I asked to see the video. Jamie handed me her phone. In the clip, my fiancé walked into frame with a towel and a grin, a beer in one hand. Men's laughter in the background. A shot of them piling on a couch, the camera angled low, a joke whispered. The ring glinted on her hand in the frame. Is that... I didn't finish. Jamie shrugged. It's a stupid weekend. They were taking funny shots, no big deal. It was a big deal. The angle of the camera, the way the laughter landed, the casual touch of a hand on her knee, nothing explicit, nothing the court would care about. But for me, it arranged the pieces I'd been watching. That night, over dishes, she said, it was just a stupid trip. Who else was there? I asked, voice even. The guys from the group. You met Dan and Tom once. Her voice had that practiced evenness again. I opened her messages on the couch when she showered. The tablet was unlocked, face up. A browse, not a break-in. I read the conversation for clarity, not vengeance. 3 short threads. Ben, you good? Her, yeah, come over. Ben, you sure? Then an emoji I didn't like because it made the sentence soft. There were dates, times that matched locker receipts and the sauna stamp. Small confirmations stacking like coins. She came back, wrapped in a towel. You okay? She called from the bedroom. Yeah, I said. Just tired. I told myself to breathe. To be precise, facts mattered more than heat. I saved screenshots to my private drive. I didn't send them to anyone. Not yet. She left the ring on when she slept. Some people take jewelry off. Others keep it as a prop. I watched that ring like a compass needle. It pointed to a truth I didn't want to be right about. When Jamie left, she hugged me quick. I'm sorry if this was awkward, she said. Thought it would be fine to show you. She smiled the way people smile when they believe mistake and harm are not the same. I didn't react to Jamie. I stood in the doorway holding a dish towel and felt the world arranged so that each fact fit. I had what I needed to stop guessing. The question left was how to respond. I didn't shout. I planned. I didn't call her out. I didn't berate her. I watched and mapped. I started with small moves. I checked the calendar on her work email when she was in meetings, public entries, team off-site, client dinner, late session. Dates matched the locker tag and the spa receipts. I went by the gym during lunch, pretending I wanted a membership. I watched through the glass while she trained. She sat with a group after class more than once. Ben was close to her, not hand in hand, not blatant, but close enough to fit. He threaded his arm through the back of her chair. He joked in a voice that belonged to people who share secrets. I stopped bringing it up. I smiled in the mornings. I left notes in her bag, small domestic things that made me feel less like an intruder and more like the person who still knew where the laundry detergent was kept. One evening, she called me from the street. We're heading to a house for drinks, she said. We'll be late. I'll grab something to eat, I said. Be safe. She laughed lightly. Don't wait up. When she left, I took a different route. I parked 2 blocks away and walked with the city noise in my ears. I watched them from across the street as they came out 2 hours later. 3 men, her with them. She was laughing with a hand on one guy's shoulder. She still had the ring on. Some nights I traced the timestamps of messages and matched them to public social posts. I noted times and places in a note app. June 4th, Locker 23, 7:30 p.m. June 7th, cabin, 2 a.m. I stopped writing for emotion and started writing for pattern. At home, I kept our life the same. I cooked the dinners she liked. I left small kindnesses on the counter. The trick was not to look different. People show their true colors when they think their color is secure. A coworker asked if I was okay at a lunch out. I said, "Fine." He said, "You don't seem like yourself." I said, "Stress." He said nothing. It's easier to call it stress. I cataloged names: Ben, Dan, Tom. I learned their jobs. I learned where they lived. I paid attention to what she posted and when. I didn't rant. I assembled evidence like a surgeon prepares tools. One weekend, I put on a shirt I hadn't worn in months and headed to the gym parking lot at 6 a.m. I sat in the car and watched the back exit. A delivery van came, a trainer left with a bag. I saw her at the door, her ring catching the sun. She didn't look my way. At night, I archived messages. I printed copies of posts and saved the locker tag photo in a folder labeled simply dates. I made backups. I called a lawyer for information about joint leases and the way property transfers happen. Questions I asked casually. The lawyer answered like lawyers do. Precise, clean. There was no yelling, no dramatic confrontation, only method. The silence in the apartment grew thick. The rooms felt like evidence rooms. Soft cliffhanger. I had all the pieces I needed. The next move was about timing. I didn't hurry. I waited for the moment that would make everything irreversible. She lied again, small, natural, but it was the last small lie. We had plans to visit my sister on Sunday. I took the time off weeks before. She told me she had a morning session and would meet us afterward. That morning she kissed me, said, "I'll meet you later," and left with a gym bag slung over her shoulder. An hour into the drive, my sister sent a photo. "Where are you?" "We're at the cafe." The photo showed a table with empty chairs. No sign of her. I called. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Texts read as read. When she finally answered an hour later, her voice was light. "Traffic," she said. "Sorry, totally stuck." At the courthouse I'd checked with months before, I'd learned about simple legal steps to protect myself. I'd learned how quickly one can establish separation of funds, how leases transfer, how to secure documents. The options sat in my head like cards in a hand. You only need the right one. She came home that night smelling like someone else's cologne. "Long day," she said. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "You?" She shrugged. Exhausted. At dinner, she scrolled her phone and laughed at something. I watched her thumb move in a soft pattern I'd memorized. There was no urgency in me, no rupture, just the knowledge that another chance had been wasted. Later, I opened a drawer and took out the envelope I'd been building over weeks. Receipts, screenshots, locker tags, printouts. I sat at the table and went through them like someone reading evidence in a quiet courtroom. The ring glinted in a glass on the counter. She watched me. "What's that?" she asked. "Nothing yet," I said. "Just putting things in order." She started to protest. She planned to say something like, "It's not what it looks like," but she didn't get the words out. There was a second where she looked like someone trying to remember a practiced line. She chose the line and delivered it fluently. "You're overthinking." I closed the folder. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not." She touched her ring and smiled, the smile you wear when you know your story is polished. "We'll talk about it tomorrow," she said. I nodded. I poured myself a drink. I walked to the window and watched the city flicker. There's a calm that comes with decision. It isn't triumph, it's the clarity that follows long observation. I had been patient until patience stopped being curiosity and turned into permission. That shift happened in the pause after her sentence. I decided then I wouldn't give her another chance to lie. I moved with the quiet of someone who doesn't want the neighborhood to notice. I changed passwords, not all at once. I did it in the hours she thought I was asleep. Bank, email, shared accounts. I put locks on things that already felt owned. The principle is simple. Control the angle of departure. I archived messages to a secondary drive. I printed copies and boxed them. I secured paperwork. I opened a private account and moved funds that were legally mine. I asked the bank how quickly transfers clear. They gave me numbers and I made mental notes. I called a lawyer under the guise of curiosity about leases. I asked the right questions and learned how to sever ties without noise. I asked about how to change utilities, how to transfer leases, what evidence made an exit easier in court. The lawyer's voice was professional and dry. I thanked him and hung up. I started separating physical things. Not dramatically. I boxed up my books in order. I put my guitars in the case the day she went to a late session. I didn't take keepsakes for drama. I took them because it was time. I never told her I was doing it. I brewed her coffee in the morning. I still asked how her day was. I went to work. I smiled. The deception was surgical. Keep the exterior unchanged so she stays careless. One evening, while she did yoga, I went through our shared drives and downloaded paperwork, receipts tied to her gym payments, calendar entries, a credit card charge to a nearby rental house. I printed everything in neat stacks, no commentary, no flourish. I double checked. Dates. I matched them to social posts and private messages. The patterns read like a map. I circled places and times. I highlighted names. There is a detachment that grows with method. Once you archive emotion into files, it stops being flame and becomes data. Data is useful. I called a friend who worked at a storage place and asked about small units for a short time. Just stuff, I said. He understood and didn't ask. People who know you don't always need the whole story. At night, I rehearsed the logistics. 2 suitcases, a parking spot, a new number. The envelope of printed messages went into a plain folder. I labeled it. She left the ring on day after day. It didn't move. She wore it like a token of ignorance. I practiced silence. The best exits are quiet. You leave the door open for them to step through into consequence. Everything was in place. I waited for a day when the timing would do the work for me. The day I chose was ordinary on purpose. She left for a group recovery session. She kissed me like she always did. The ring stayed on. I watched her go. I had the box in the trunk. I had the folder on the passenger seat. The drive was calm. First, I went to the bank, closed shared accounts in person. I asked the teller to run the forms. She processed the paperwork with a polite smile. The balance transferred to my new account. A tiny official motion made invisible changes. Next, I visited the leasing office. I asked about transferring utilities and keys. I signed forms. The clerk printed signatures and stamped papers. The lease was now in her name alone if she wanted it. The paperwork sat in their files. Back at the apartment, I moved quickly and without ceremony. I packed the small things that mattered: documents, my laptop, a few shirts. I left the things that would make the place still look lived in. The table had cups. The couch had cushions swiped in habit. The trick is always to leave the stage intact so the actor can perform. I made one envelope. Inside, printed messages, the locker tag, the receipt copies, dates highlighted, and nothing else. No accusations, no flourish, just the evidence lined up as facts. I placed the envelope on the kitchen counter where she would see it when she returned. I didn't write a note. I didn't leave a threat. Facts are louder than words when arranged correctly. Before I left, I changed the shared streaming logins, removed my profile, and altered autopay. I took my spare key to the manager. I surrendered it like someone checking out quietly. The manager nodded. All set, he said. I called to cancel the joint memberships. I changed my number. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, breathing with the same slow patience I'd kept for weeks. When she came home, her face was bright from whatever the night had been. She stepped into the quiet apartment, and the lights felt like an interrogation lamp. Her smile faltered when she saw the envelope. I didn't wait for the door to close. I didn't need the scene. I drove to a hotel in another city, checked in under my name, and ordered a late dinner. I opened a window and watched the city breathe. I didn't need to watch her reaction. I'd already given her everything required to understand the situation. Her phone rang once from inside the apartment before I turned it off. I didn't answer. I stayed away for 3 nights. 3 nights felt like a sentence and a relief. There were messages, a call that went to voicemail, a text that tried to be clever. We can fix this. She left the ring on in the voicemail thumbnail like a tiny flag. I deleted the message after listening. I didn't rehearse a reaction. A mutual friend told me she'd found the envelope and cried. Another said she'd been seen packing. None of them asked for my side. They assumed it was messy. It was. I found a small apartment near the river. It was bare, quiet, not designed for shows. I put my books on a shelf in the order that made sense to me. I made tea at odd hours. I walked at night where the lights were few and the sound of the water was simple. People asked me if I felt vindicated. I said no. Vindication is loud. This was not loud. This was accurate and final. Sometimes I thought about the ring, not with anger, not with triumph, with recognition. An object can be memory without meaning. I replaced meaning with method, and it settled. I ran into her once at a market. She looked smaller in person, more hurried. The ring was gone. She glanced my way and then looked past me like a person who's learned to navigate without anchors. I didn't speak. She didn't either. Months later, a mutual friend sent me a photo of her laughing at some party. I deleted it. I didn't carry it. I threw away the locker tag and kept a single printed page in a folder labeled simply End. It had no dramatics, just dates and signatures and the quiet evidence. The mornings are quieter now. There is a slowness that is not emptiness but space. You learn how to move through rooms that no longer echo your name. When you leave precisely, you remove the need for explanation. You reduce what used to be a loud question into a closed statement. I didn't look back. I just heard the door close behind me.